it's MK and I am playing along with Christy's Beautiful Life 30 Days of Sketches. This is series 11 and this beautiful sketch was made by Nicole Santos just for Christy's Beautiful Life 30 Days of Sketches. So I printed off the PDF that is available for those that like to work ahead. That way I could have that little snippet right in front of me. So I printed it off, cut it out. So what I have is a couple tree rings that I have created, as well as a couple that I cut out from a Creative Memories paper pack from a couple years ago. I want to say it was almost 2, maybe 3 years ago. I also have my Build a Wreath wood veneer pieces. They are available in my shop in the new wood, so they're thinner than what they were when they first came out. And then I also have a bunch of pine needles and almost like baby's breath. I don't really know exactly what it's called, but that's kind of how I treat it, is as baby breath. And they were just hanging out on my desk, so I pulled them in. I have 2 photos of what we call our neighbors, and then a bunch of scraps left over from wood grain layouts. That's all it is. I have a scrap of burlap, and then this scrap from 49 and Market. And then I'm so excited that I finally get to use this Stay Wild thicker set. I just have no clue. And then I think this beautiful green watercolor paper, it looks like Stampin' Up, but I'm not really sure who the manufacturer is on this one. It was just in my loose papers, you guys. I apologize about that. So the first thing I'm going to do is lay out all of my wood grain scraps to see what all I have to work with. I really just looked at the sketch, threw in all the pieces that I thought would work, and then didn't think anything of it until I went to go create the layout. And I really didn't have a background picked out for this, so I honestly had no clue what it was that I was going to, be doing. Like, I just threw a bunch of pieces together. Like, I keep saying like, I apologize. What went through my head was all these lines make me think of stacked wood. That was it. So that's where my thought process was. And then when I decided on some photos, I instantly pulled a green because there was a lot of green in the photos. These are, I believe these are our spring deer. So they come out right after the snow melts, and actually they never leave, you guys, in all honesty. But they love to come into our yard. Now, this was before we put up our fence around the yard, and in order for us around here to actually want a yard, pretty flowers and trees and gardens and things like that, you have to put up a hefty fence. Some of the deer will attempt to jump it, but others won't even. They'll just look at it and go, yeah, not worth my while, and move on to your neighbor's yard that doesn't have a fence. And so we finally invested in a fence, and this was shortly before, because I planted some beautiful honeysuckles, you guys. And I love honeysuckles. I love the fact that they bring in the hummingbirds and all this good stuff. And the deer came in and just said, "Oh, you think?" and ate it, like all of it. And I'm thinking, really, dude? I spent money on that, and you just ate it like I fed you. I was so mad. So yeah, we decided to put up a fence this same exact year because in order for us to have a yard, we're never going to be able to fight the deer off. So anywho, and we always call them, our neighbors are here to visit, and we call the geese our neighbors as well. But they like to land on our roof. Yeah, that's fun when it scares the crud out of the kids, and they're like, "What was that sound? Sounds like somebody's walking on our roof." Yeah, that's the geese. It's just fun. So after a while, I decided this gray paper was not, or the gray wood grain was not going to work in my favor at all. I did not like the contrast of the gray on the green. It was just the wrong green, and I was being lazy to not go and find a different green. So what I decided to do was just change the color of my wood grain. That was easy peasy. I am using ground espresso because it is, actually, no, I'm using ground espresso. Yes, I am. That's what it said. That's what it looks like. Anyways, just because that's my go-to brown, you guys. I don't know why. I love ground espresso. So I changed all of my pieces of wood so that way they all matched, except for my 12-inch piece. I'm not sure if I need it yet, and I don't want to change it if I'm not going to use it. So I'm going to move on to coloring my my branches. Now this is a build a wreath from the Some Assemblage Required, well, it used to be Etsy shop, but it's not anymore. It's got its own website. What? It's crazy. But yes, I decided to bring these back because they are such versatile little branches that can be put anywhere, that you don't have to build a wreath, but they do make a nice wreath. They're curved just right. You can make a big wreath around your layout, or a little wreath, or just little snippets of things. And so I decided that I was going to color them. Well, truth be told, I haven't colored my new wood yet because this is actually wood grain wood. I'm used to my MDF where it takes color beautifully. I can paint it, color it, do whatever I want with it. So when I was working with my wood, I was like, oh, this actually has the grain of wood, and it's bleeding all over the place. So when I was nicely trying to stay in the lines, it told me, no, you're not going to. So I decided to embrace the not staying in the lines and just color everything. And it looks a lot better without having that actual outline on it. It would have looked cute if I was able to keep that outline, but yeah, it didn't. And then also too, my Stampin' Up! Blends are well loved, which means that I actually use a product in my craft room. And so I just take scissors and I snip off the brush parts that start to get a little frayed and whatnot. It's better than spending $9 on another set, to be honest, and the marker still works just fine. So anyways, got all those colored and they are off to dry. So now I'm going to work on my layout. Now, what I noticed after a while, because at first I thought I needed paper for the left side and paper for the right side, I had no clue, or it didn't even dawn on me that I could, once I figure out the order that I want them in on the left, then I just have to rip them and I can just move it over to the right. Didn't even dawn on me that that's how Nicole had set up this sketch until I was playing and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have enough strips. So I was also thinking about bringing in the hexagons and just making it a couple extra layers. And I thought, no, I'll save those for another project. Still not sure if I need to bring in that wider strip yet or not. And of course, off camera, because I don't like to ink over my layout, and I had no clue I had my layout pulled down so far either. I'm sorry. But off camera, I do ink the edges once I rip the paper. I don't try to get rid of the white. I just try to ink it really hard. And so I just don't like all that fuzz that comes off of my blending tool. So in all honesty, I'm just inking off site. That's what I'm doing. So that way I just don't get all those fuzzies on my layout. Also too, I'm trying my hardest to stagger everything to give it a little bit of interest. So I don't want to rip everything going all the same direction, but I don't want, like if I ripped it, I don't want to leave just a small little gap. I want to leave a wonky gap, so that way it kind of just has no rhyme or reason to it whatsoever. I love layouts like this. I really, really do. They're just a creative outlet to just play. There's no strategic, no strict rules, nothing. You just get to play, and I love that about these types of layouts. Also, I am taking some of my branding strips and staggering them on top, so stacking the two wood pieces together or overlapping them ever slightly, things like that. And then this ripped one right here is going to become the shelf for my photo, to be honest. And also too, I think it's going to be the shelf for my title as well. This whole time I have no clue how I'm going to decorate. I have no clue where my title was going to go because I didn't even realize that she had it over on the left, because now I'm thinking my title's too big. I just really wasn't thinking. I just wanted to play, to be honest. And like I said, these are just silly little pictures of what we call my neighbors. They visit exactly at the same time. Well, they don't anymore because we have a fence up. They just stopped coming over. It's almost like, you know what? Even our own people friends, our two-legged friends, stopped coming over because they say our fence is intimidating. It's almost like they have to call for an appointment. But exactly the same time, the geese came over at 5:30 in the morning, and then a little later in the afternoon to play in our water puddles. And then the deer would come over at the exact, about 7:30, shortly after the geese come and make a mess. And then the deer like to spread it around. It's just so fun. It really, animals are fun. Feel the sarcasm in my voice. Animals are just a blast. So anyways, and it's nice too, because it's like, they eat the nice stuff. They don't eat the weeds. Like, really, I've got thistles out there that could have been eaten and you guys didn't even bother. So go away. Eat the thistles. Don't eat my vegetables. They never listen to me anyways. But yeah, it's fun to watch them. It's fun to hear them, but not fun to, the aftermath of when they leave, that sort of thing. But yeah, we always just called them our neighbors. Our neighbors are here to visit. Yep. They're making a mess. Yep. I'm sorry, you guys. But yeah, ever since we put up our fence, it's just one of those things where we don't get as many visitors. The kids' friends will actually stand out by the man gate and call them. Hey, can we come over? Like, your fence says no. And we just never thought of it that way until somebody made a comment. We went to dinner one time and somebody made a comment like, yeah, that fence is pretty brutal. And we're like, brutal? What do you mean brutal? And they're like, well, it's just so intimidating. Like, please don't come here. And we never thought of it that way. We put it up so that way we could start actually, beautifying our yard. We never thought about, the two-legged friends that we have hanging out, just the four-legged friends and the, webbed feet friends. So anyways, I did decide to bring in that wider strip. I went ahead and inked it up just to give it that brown color instead of gray color. And I'm having chips and salsa for lunch, by the way, in case you guys haven't noticed. And my kids just got home from school, so they're also enjoying my lunch and having chips and salsa. You guys, I am a sucker for chips and salsa. I love chips and salsa. Give me that any day over any kind of dessert. So anyways, that is what I've got going on. And I do love the addition of the wider strip, because then it definitely gives that, I don't want to say illusion, but it gives that thick and thin look that I like, the randomness, of I've got my 1/2-inch branding strips and then a couple strips that I cut into 1-inch pieces, and then whatever my leftovers were from other projects. I just love having that instead of all of it being uniform. Also too, I like the fact that my wood grain isn't just going straight across. It's some of it's horizontal and some of it's vertical. So I really do like that too. And then because I am working with scraps, it is a little tedious to work around the photo mat. And I left this part in because for some weird reason, even though I was using a ruler, I still could not get any of they weren't lining up. Like, how do I have such a huge gap over on the right when I used my ruler to make sure it was straight across? I still didn't figure out what happened. I just adjusted and made it work. But I left it all in there so you guys could see the struggles and all that good stuff. But yeah, it was a little tedious to have to pull, rip all these pieces left and right to go across, to make it look like it went across the whole layout instead of straight across. The big wide strip, I definitely could have, left it as a big wide strip on the other side of my behind my photo mat. But yeah, I just decided not to do that. I love having little leftovers of wood grain and adding them here and there. This branding strip here, I don't remember where it came from. I think it's a Kaiser Craft branding strip, but I'm honestly not sure. where it came from, but it's got the words dream, discover, and explore, which I thought was absolutely perfect for my little deer exploring our yard and eating those, the nicer things instead of the weeds. Eat the weeds and then you guys can come back. And then, of course, I'm going to go ahead and just play around. Like I said, I didn't realize that I pushed my layout down so far. I apologize about that. But I'm going to do a mix of my branches from the Build-A-Wreath, as well as the baby's breath and the pine needles, because in the background behind the deer are the pine trees that are in the park across the street. And then in our yard, they ate my branches, which you can't see in there, but they are there. They're part of the story of why they got locked out of our yard. Oh my goodness. I do have to tell you guys that over the summer, this exact same summer, when we first had our gate and we were leaving the gate open, we decided that we were going to go around. This was one of the days in the summer. We decided that we were going to go around and close all the gates and let the dogs run the yard. Well, a baby deer ended up, and I mean like baby still had its white spots on its bum, deer, got stuck in our yard. And so we went and opened up all the gates. Well, it wouldn't get away from the gate. Like it tried to jump through the gate, and its mom, and it was crying for its mom on the other side of the street. And mom was just standing there staring like, I don't know what to do because there's people chasing you type of deal. Well, we weren't chasing it. We were trying to herd it out of the gate. But it kept staying so close to the gate that it would get itself trapped in between like the actual openings of the gate. So anyways, we had a heck of a time, and finally we had to open the man gate in the opposite direction. So that way the baby, when it was, herded up against the fence, the baby would find the opening and just go through. And oh my gosh, was it so super excited. It started doing its little hoppity hop jump across the street. But yeah, for one, it was funny to see this deer try to, like he was trying to go through the entire fence and it wasn't happening. And then it just kept getting stuck where the gate was open, between the fence and the gate. And it wouldn't leave the fence far enough to go around the gate and go out this big old huge door. It just wouldn't. But it was an interesting experience. My son had fun trying to herd it out of the gate and whatnot. And then of course, the dogs absolutely love roaming the whole yard. It's so fun. So anyways, just going ahead and gluing everything down, making sure that it all sticks. Like I said, the branches have they have adhesive on the back. So I was just peeling those off and sticking them down, and that's pretty strong adhesive. Once you find a spot, it's going to stay. I'm going to use the word explore just from the other side of my words going on over there. And then my leftover little pine needles that I have, I'm just trimming them down so they don't look weird, which they do still look weird, but I'm going to add them down to the bottom. I kind of tried to keep my clusters where Nicole had her clusters on her sketch, but I did add this one little tree ring down at the bottom, just so that way the words don't look like they were just thrown there to fill in a gap. In all honesty. And then I had this half a tree ring that was actually from the paper pack. So I'm going to go ahead and add that over there because it really needed a tree ring. But my homemade tree rings are dimensional, and it was just too much dimension. I couldn't get it to work. So that other tree ring, that paper tree ring, was absolutely perfect. And then to top it all off, I'm going to add a little bit of white splatter. I love this splash of white. And I am glad that the Stay Wild stacked on top of each other really worked, because I thought it was going to be too big. To be honest, I said that at the beginning when I didn't even realize where the title was supposed to go. But I do love how this turned out, and the fact that my title really wasn't as big as it could have been. So anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really, truly appreciate it. Down below, there is a playlist for everyone that is playing along with Christy's Beautiful Life. They are just playing along when they can and adding their videos when it is possible. So just check it out, you guys. It is an awesome playlist, and the link is down below. And I will check y'all later for the next one. All right. Thank you so much. And yeah, see ya.